The arrest of a man in Llandudno for allegedly impersonating a rear admiral at a Remembrance Sunday ceremony has provoked a predictable storm of indignation. The images have been circulated widely. An ill-fitting, white-suited, white-shirted navy uniform, a chest crowded with medals that no single career could plausibly earn, and the improbable claim to be representing the Lord Lieutenant's office. North Wales Police have acted. The Ministry of Defence has issued a stern reminder about the nature of the offence, and veteran groups have made their dismay plain. But before drawing hard conclusions, it's worth taking a breath. The language of fake is appealingly simple, and social media elevates that simplicity into certainty. Yet, as someone who's lived through targeted attempts to discredit a professional standing and who has who's been personally advised not to return to Russia because of televised exposure at precisely the moment the Crimea crisis was unfolding, I know how this terrain feels, and I know how the efforts to discredit can be so offensive. Once the accusation of being a fake takes hold, it's treacherously difficult to escape its gravitational pull, even where the accusations are baseless or malicious. We have, of course, seen cases in Britain of fabricated authority. The notorious fake police chief comes to mind, the man who claimed to have served in the Falklands and wore an invented uniform with great confidence. That episode is now a shorthand in the press for any suspected impersonation, but similarly, it doesn't prove identity, and while parallels will inevitably be drawn, each case requires specificity, not reflex generalization. What we know about the man from Llandudno is drawn entirely from press reports and police statements. He attended the ceremony, he claimed a rank he was not authorised to hold, he wore a remarkable array of medals, including the Distinguished Service Order, the Queen's Volunteer Reserve medals, an MBE serving campaign medals, and assorted reserve long service decorations. Veterans and serving personnel spotted immediately that the combination was impossible. The DSO, especially in the Royal Navy, is so rarely awarded that it's instantly recognisable, and the QVRM has never in the entire history of its presentation been awarded alongside a DSO. These are not small anomalies. The police search of his home recovered uniforms and medals. He's been charged under the Uniforms Act 1894, which prohibits wearing the insignia of His Majesty's forces without permission. He will appear in court where the facts can be tested properly. The process matters. It is the difference between law and online denunciation. Still, while the outlines are troubling, we ought to resist the theatrical certainty that surrounds these cases. People fabricate identities for reasons that are often more pitiable than malicious. Loneliness, a longing for significance, a desire to belong to a community that one admires, sometimes even mental health vulnerabilities. These factors can lie beneath such behaviour. None of this excuses the act. Impersonating a high-ranking officer on Remembrance Sunday is without question upsetting for genuine servicemen and women who have given their years, their health, and sometimes their lives for this country. They have every right to feel anger when the symbols of service are misused in this way. But the question for us is not whether the behaviour was appropriate. It manifestly was not. The question is whether we are prepared to hold complexity in mind. That is especially important in Remembrance Week, when the country pauses to honour duty, sacrifice and integrity, and the temptation is to treat this incident as a kind of moral contamination, something that threatens the purity of the day. In truth, the ceremony in Llandudno was dignified, the wreaths were laid, the silence observed, and the community gathered. That must be remembered and celebrated. There's also another dimension too. It's remarkably easy for accusations of fakery to be weaponized. I've seen it personally. In moments of political tension, when governments turn inward or nervous, there's a tendency to discredit individuals by undermining their credentials, their academic standing, their motives. When I was abruptly translated from one department, from the Department of Education to the Department of Theology, which didn't exist, by the way, I was to be the first professor of the new Department of Theology in the university. And shortly afterwards warned against returning to Russia because of my exposure on British television at this moment of sharp political sensitivity, I learned how very quickly, and how fragile reputations can be when confronted with hostile narratives and fantasy stories. If there is one lesson I draw from that period, it is this: people rush to label, often in ways that serve their own interests rather than the truth. None of this diminishes the legitimate feelings of veterans in Llandudno, nor the seriousness of impersonating an officer. It simply means that until the facts are established, the responsible person should document what is known and avoid the cheap gratification of public shaming. To those who have served, this incident will understandably feel like an insult. They built careers piece by piece, earned their honours through danger, hardship and duty. A remembrance service parade is not theatre, it's an act of collective memory. Those who wear medals they didn't earn intrude upon a sacred civic space. Yet justice requires proportion. Not all deceptions are equal, not all motives are malign, and we do our civic culture no favours when online sleuths produce guilt long before the courts have even set a date. The man will appear in the magistrate's court next month. That is the right forum. Until then, the best service we can render to the public health and to the public truth is to be precise, restrained and fair. Remembrance is ultimately about dignity. Our response to this incident should reflect precisely that.